Awesome. So welcome everybody. Welcome to our first Women in Energy call of the new year. We're excited to have you all here. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2021. So thanks for joining our first call. We're excited to have Katie. I think there's no better way to kick off our new year than what we have planned for our first session here today. But more on that in a second. I wanted to just quickly introduce myself so you know who I am and why I'm here speaking to you. My name is Michelle Buettner. My day job is as a global program manager and HR business partner at Schneider Electric. I joined the company just over 2 years ago and have loved my experience since, and the culture that truly values diversity, which is what helped start Women in Energy back in the day, as in a little less than 2 years ago. But I wanted to give a quick thank you to Schneider for sponsoring this event and making it possible for us to have you all here today, have Katie with us to be able to share her insights and knowledge. So, a big thank you to Schneider for sponsoring. And if any of you are interested in working at Schneider, I'm just going to give a quick plug, say that we are hiring, so definitely be sure to reach out to either me directly. I'm happy to kind of get you connected, but also feel free to look at the Schneider job site. There's a lot out there, and it has the most up-to-date information. I have the link at the screen below, so definitely feel free to check that out. If you're looking for a new position, something in the new year, definitely feel free to reach out. Schneider is a great company, and I can definitely recommend working there. For Women in Energy, I'm one of the global program managers and have enjoyed doing this role since its inception just about 2 years ago now. And a huge thank you to all of you for being part of that group and for making it so interesting and so dynamic over the time that we've had this group. It's been great to see it grow, not only just in numbers and geography, but also in the engagement we have and in the conversation we have in the group. If you're not in the group yet, definitely be sure to join. I have the screenshot here. This is the barcode that you can scan to join the group. If not, I'll put the link in the chat later, so definitely look for that. But be sure to join the group. We have more events coming throughout the year that we don't want you to miss. Invite your friends so you can join our Women in Energy Network. There's a lot of great things happening there. But without further ado, I will introduce you to the Woman of the Hour. So we have Katie McDonald here with us today. And I'll stop sharing my screen so you can all see her. But we have Katie McDonald here with us today. We're excited to have her. I was introduced to Katie through a colleague who has Katie as her personal coach and spoke so highly of Katie, I knew I had to meet her right away. I had my first call with her and got off the call feeling energized and encouraged, and I felt like I could conquer the world. And I wanted to call her right back and keep talking. And so I'm excited to have her here with all of you today. And hopefully you can come off this call feeling the same way I felt coming off of my call with Katie. But Katie is a self-care strategist and founder of bnourished, which she started 10 years ago. After reaching a point which I think can only be described as extreme burnout, and she was working really hard in a corporate career and as a mother to the point where she became incredibly sick and realized something needed to change. And since then, she's been on a mission to ensure others don't find themselves in the position she was in, but rather take care of themselves so that they can live to their fullest and be more energized and become a better contributor to those around them. So through this session, Katie will help us to kind of process and plan our transition from 2020 into 2021. 2020 was a year full of challenges, full of twists and turns. And if you're anything like me, you may not have fully processed what happened. So Katie's here to help us reflect on 2020 and all that happened within ourselves throughout the year, and to make peace with that so we can move into this year with new energy, to use it as a fresh slate to be able to kind of control the things we can, to process and work through the things that we can't, and much, much more. So I'm excited to have her here today. I think I need this call, and I hope comes at the right time for all of you. But without further ado, I'll hand it over to Katie, and so we can all hear from her and what she has to share. So I'll share my screen again. If you can't see it, let me know, but I'll share it so you can see what Katie has to share.
Hi, so I was an addict, and my addiction was busyness. My addiction was perfectionism. I worked for Time magazine, selling advertising in 45 national publications. And every day I woke up with the sense that I wasn't enough, that I would never be enough, and that maybe if I had one more sale, if I made one more call, that finally I could rest. I made this empty promise that rest was on the horizon. And the fact was, rest never came. And instead, what came is disease. I got ulcerative colitis, pneumonia, shingles, asthma, allergy, anxiety, depression. I was a hot mess. And what I had to learn was that all the books that I had gathered on self-care, meditation, nutrition, alternative health, time management, all these things, I just studied. They were mind candy, but I never implemented. I had to change my life. And more importantly, I had to change the way I change. And this is what this is about. I had to learn how to become intentional instead of a reactive. I had to step into the responsibility and the privilege of having my own back. You see, I overfunctioned for everyone else and I underperformed for myself. I'm going to say that again. I overfunctioned for everyone else and I underperformed for myself. And I'm not sure if that resonates with anybody, but my guess is it might, that we bring stellar habits and strategies and practices to our work, and we kind of slum it when it comes to our own self-care, that we have exceptionally high standards for ourselves, and yet mediocrity seems to be okay when it comes for the way we show up for ourselves. I don't know if that rings true to you, but it certainly was my life. And it's the people that I best serve and the work that I do as a concierge coach. When we are intentional, we actually get to step into that role. We get to take the crown of responsibility and privilege for self-care. And that's what this is about. We're going to be deliberate. We're going to talk about ways to liberate ourselves through deliberate action and intention around annual planning, because the word deliberate actually has liberate in it, which never occurred to me. But how powerful is that as a reminder that when we get intentional, we're actually freeing ourselves? And the part of us that maybe resists structure, we actually learn, oh, actually, structure sets us free. So, this is what we're going to cover in this next time. The introduction, like the why, the annual review, like what and how, and the annual strategy, the what and how. We know what to do, we're not sure how to do it, so we're going to get clear. And then the golden implementation. Just like I said, I didn't know how to implement. We all know what we should be doing. We all know what we want to do, need to do, but the actual how is elusive. And that's what this is about. How do we review the past year and then set ourselves up for success in the coming year, or right now in 2021? Then we're going to conclude, and there's plenty of time for a Q&A. So save your questions and we'll get to them. This time is for you. It's about you. You're just showing up, by the way, is a testimony to your willingness to invest in yourself. So thank you for being here. Okay, the why. Why are we even doing this? We're doing this because we get amnesia. We're doing this because we often show more interest and passion in strangers' lives on social media than we do ourselves. This is a self-study. This is an invitation to be curious about ourselves, to study ourselves, to look back only to the degree that it will inform us. For many of us, looking back becomes weapons of, we weaponize it when we see the ways in which we failed. All we see are the ways in which we fell short or disappointed ourselves or somebody else, that we didn't meet our expectations. When we do an annual review and an annual strategy, what we're doing is introducing compassion and curiosity. I want you to feel the guilt, feel the shame just for a second, to be like, wow, those are opportunities for me to explore a little bit more, but I'm not going to hang out in that mindset. We're going to tame the bully of our minds. We're going to quiet the judge, and we're going to really be curious about what is it that occurred this past year that might inform the coming year? The why is this is a worthy exploration, and it's the part that we usually blow off. We just move immediately into the next whatever, right? Whatever's in front of us. We're good at that, but this is a chance for us to savor and to pause. If you're not crafting your life, you're living out someone else's plan for you. See, there is a plan in motion, and if it's not yours, wake up, take back the helm, and start crafting your own life. You know, this pandemic revealed something that's been true, but we had a delusion that it wasn't. The fact is, we have very little control over life. We just don't. And if we thought we did, like, hello, we don't. However, we have a ton of control over what we think, what we say, what we eat, what we do. And if we have abdicated that power, we need to take it back, right? We need to feel powerful. We need to feel energized by our choices. We've got to fuel our life with intention instead of reactivity. So I want this realization to piss you off, to wake you up out of a slumber of, oh, well, you know, life's fine. That's great. I want you to celebrate what's going well in your life. But I also want you to make sure that you feel like you have a sense of mastery. We let go of the things over which we have no control over, like, hey, whether we have a pandemic or not, but we have 100% control over whether we put a mask on, whether we use the pandemic, leverage it as an opportunity for us to go within. We can't go outside, but we can go within. And that's what this process is about. Replacing reactivity with proactivity, right? We tend to put fires out all day long. You know, so many people say to me over and over again, my coaching clients, as well as in the world and speaking that I do, they're just like, feel like I'm a firefighter. I'm putting fires out all the time. We just react to whatever's in front of us. We react to whatever challenge. Often, we're actually putting fires out lit by other people who are not taking the time to be deliberate and intentional. When we're not taking the time to be deliberate and intentional ourselves, we're throwing kindling onto the fire. We're lighting the fires ourselves. We're arsonists. And then we're spending all day long putting fires out and wondering why we're burnt out, right? I'm going to ride this flame analogy for a while, but like we also get inflamed, inflammation, too much heat, the source of disease. So we want to step into the privilege and honor of crafting our own lives. And we do it by reviewing the past year and crafting a vision for the next. The what. So this is what we're doing. We're doing a review, an assessment, a study without judgment. And then we're actually going to develop those strategies and then implement. Here's the thing. I want you to listen to this with an ear bent on what's the one action I'm going to do. I'm going to spell out at the end what these steps are. I want you to take a screenshot of it. We can also send it. I'll send it to Michelle so you can reference it. But the fact is, if we don't have a commitment to action, then this is just mind candy. Like this is just fluff and frankly, a waste of time. If you have no intention of implementing, get off, like really just get off now and go do something else because we have to act to change our lives. And this is an opportunity for us to do things differently. So the what is, we're going to look through our year and extract the lessons without judgment. Just be like, hey, what is it that I can learn so that, and if there are things that I don't like, things that I want to do differently, then I'm actually going to learn from that and not repeat it. We will repeat history if we don't study it. And we want to repeat the good stuff, the stuff that really catapults us forward. We want to extract the wisdom and then make it part of the structure that we plan for the year ahead. The how. The how is the fun. This is what most people don't know is the how. We know what to do, we know what we want to do, but the how is crazy elusive. The how to make it actually happen. This is the fun stuff. If we can bring a sense of delight and joy and curiosity, it'll be way more fun. So what I do every year, although this was a little funky this year, I actually plan a retreat. I go away. I go away for 2 days at a really nice resort, and this time of year the resorts are cheap. Right now, super cheap. I'm not traveling in the pandemic, but so I had to do it a little differently this year. But the how is I actually do a retreat. I call it a retreat because I want to signify that I'm removing myself from my normal life, but it's actually an immersion. It's emphasis on the treat of the retreat. I'm not running away. I'm actually stepping in. I'm going towards and I'm immersing myself in my life. I shut it all down. I plan those 2 days. I plan it. So in December, when I normally go, I'll plan the following December. I do it mid-December because I want to really come January be really clear and intentional. Although this year has been so funky, I'm doing a lot of my planning now in January, whereas I normally would have had it all buttoned up. No, I'm allowing myself to be a little bit loose this year, and it was what was required. And the first day I devote to studying the past. I want to, just like I said, extract the lessons. What did I learn? I want to look at the tools, the resources, the people. I want to look at my technology. I'm not separating the personal from the professional. We have this idea that we can keep them apart. We can't. What we bring to our work life is us. And the degree to which we invest in ourselves at the personal level is the degree to which we have success in our professional lives. Again, I see over and over again my high achieving clients, and those are the only people I work with, these leaders, these change makers, change agents, all this stuff, they are bringing all these phenomenal skills of strategizing, assessment, analogy, all this analytical sense they're bringing to their work life, the energy, their passion, it's all going in their career. And then there's crumbs left, a feast for the career and crumbs left for the personal. But if we're working on fumes in our professional life, imagine what we could do when we're nourished, when we do this study and reflection, when we feel fed by our own lives, fueled by our lives, electrified by our intention and our plan. That's what we do. So removing ourselves from the day-to-day where that mom, can I have mom, what's for dinner? Or the husband wondering what's happening, like our partners, all this stuff. It's like, we got to shut it all down and create boundaries. If you can't do it in the way that, I'm suggesting going away, then we've got to come up with these ways to really, it could be just an hour reserving for studying the past and an hour for the strategizing. I love doing the whole day, super fun, throw in a spa treatment. Great if you can do that. I have clients right now taking off to hotels and doing that. So do what's possible for you, but do it. Be curious about your life, far more curious than we are about everybody else's lives. Screw comparisonitis. We've got to turn our attention to ourselves. And I think that's one of the biggest blessings of the pandemic is that we can look inward, that we can start with compassion, looking at our habits, looking at the way in which we invest our time, which is the great democracy, right? We all have the same 24 hours, but how we invest it is what it's the legacy we leave behind. It's what we define as our lives. It's the dash between the born date and the dead date. Like, what is that? Well, that's how we invest our time. That is the indication of who we are. It's the lingerie drawer of our lives, the medicine cabinet, right? The peek into who we are and what we value. And when we're looking back, we want to be able to say, does this reflect what my deepest held values are? So many people come to see me with this idea like health is really important to me. My well-being is really important. It's like, great. Well, we're going to do a time map. We're going to study your life the past 2 weeks. What did you do in 30-minute intervals? And does that reflect what you hold dear? Most cases, actually every case, it doesn't. There's a pretty big gap between how we're living and how we want to live. And what this process is about is closing that gap so that we live not with regret, but we live with celebration and intentionality. So the how is actually saying, I am investing time in studying myself. And the way I'm going to do that is by studying my calendar. That's going to give me insight into who I am and what I value. And I'm going to do it without judgment. I'm going to allow myself to be like, oof, if there's a little pinch of like, oof, that's not what I want. Okay, then get over it. Get over yourself. Have the regret for a second and just be like, I'm not going to feel that way at the end. December 31st, 2021, I am going to feel proud. And I'm going to look for what I can be proud of right now. So the components of annual planning are what I've been discussing: the reflection, the strategy, and implementation. That's it. Those are the pieces. Let's get a little deeper in them. First with reflection. Okay, I want you to notice there's a lot of tea elements here. I've had a tea kettle here. I want you to get the idea. This is to savor. It's a ritual. It is an opportunity for you to light a candle, have a cup of tea, be fully present, shut the world out. Really shut the world out. Create this sacred space for you to be real with yourself. To look for the triumphs. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with BJ Fogg, but he is a scientist, behavioral scientist, does a ton of work in the corporate world, but he actually started looking at habits. How do we get people to act? And what he discovered is celebration is what is the biggest indicator of success. I see that over and over again. My clients who are completely fierce badasses, the ones we look at, sometimes we see them in the mirror, right? The ones we look at, we're like, wow, they are freaking fierce. Like, I am so admire them. I want to be them when I grow up. You know what? They're half-assing it when it comes to their self-care often. Something had to go. They're taking care of business, not taking care of themselves. But what's missing more often than not is the ability to celebrate. We don't know how to do that. We don't know how to look for the triumphs. We give our brain a job, and that job is usually looking for the way in which we failed, right? And what I want to do is extract what worked. What do I want to celebrate about what I accomplished, who I am, how I evolved, what was the personal development? We got to do that before we turn our attention to the next one. We've got to savor and marinate in it a little bit, because if it's not the way that you operate, it's not how I operate. I'm really working on building this muscle. But the fact is, it's a great business strategy. So the part of you that wants to be successful and more successful than everybody else around you, you got to use this lever. You got to pull the lever of celebration. So the triumphs, take a piece of paper and say, like, what worked? What didn't work? Again, not the ways in which you failed, but like, hey, if you have a tendency to go to bed at 11 o'clock and you're tired, that's an indication that it didn't work, right? If you're tired, it didn't work. If you've gained weight, something that you're doing isn't working right now. So we want to look at the relationship with alcohol, the relationship with time. This whole process is giving us a chance to recalibrate the relationship we have with ourselves. We are so fixated on all these relationships and responsibilities outside of ourselves, and yet the most pivotal relationship we tend to neglect and ignore and abandon. It is the relationship we have with ourselves. And again, another blessing from COVID is that we're getting to see it and then rise, right? To ride the wave of self-awareness. That is the core of self-care. We can't take care of ourselves if we're not aware of ourselves. That actually kind of rhymed, or alliteration or something. But the bottom line is, you get it. Like, we need to actually just have this inquiry about what worked, what didn't work, and what were the oops and opportunities for growth. There was no one more punishing towards herself than me, like brutal, and really to the point of deep, deep depression, because I was a bully to myself. All I saw every night when my head hit the pillow is how I didn't do enough. I never got to the to-do list. By the way, I was a human doing, not a human being. Any of you relate? Does that feel like you? If it does, to any degree, any variation of degree, this is the time, this is the moment. We do this through reflection. Be like, wow, oops, right? Instead of this punishing meanness, we actually, oops, I lost it. I lost myself for a moment. I'm going to anchor myself. What were the opportunities for growth? If we could see the ways in which we were struggling or challenged, we can just put it through this filter of compassion, of oops and opportunities for growth. We're going to create a culture of change, not because there's something wrong with us, but because we want to level up. It's very different. Every type of change that I brought about was out of self-disgust. There's something wrong with me. Well, you know what? I changed more, catapulted ahead of where I had been when I actually just had compassion, like, you know what? I'm just curious what my potential is. So this is how we do it, an opportunity for growth. Oh, I barked at my husband. Okay, opportunity for growth. That's not who I want to be, right? The sense of true north. Who do I want to be and how do I want to show up for the coming year? We start looking at through reflection, and then context and considerations. Okay, 2020 was a shit show. First, I mean, like, really? Like, crazy what's been happening. So we need to run our expectations through that context and considerations. My son's a freshman in college. This is not what I planned. He's in our spare bedroom. Really? That is not what I need to look at the context and considerations. We need to do this. We forget. We have these crazy high expectations of ourselves, but don't run it through the filter of like, what's happening? Is it reasonable in a pandemic to expect the same that we might? Things have changed. If we're working from home and never did, things have changed. I'm not saying we're letting ourselves off the hook, that we're becoming wimps in any way. We're saying let's get real, right? We can still be aspirational, inspirational, and real. And we want to anchor ourselves in reality while still striving and exploring. Like often we know how to survive. We know how to strive. These are the phases that I see, like survive, just clawing, getting ourselves through a pandemic, for instance. Surviving is like, okay, how can I just make sure I get through the day, right? But then thrive. How can I thrive when I take into consideration with the context? So this is all built on compassion and curiosity. We've got to cry. In order to gain closure in 2020, if we haven't had a good cry, like let it out, do it now, grab a friend, grab a baby blanket, I don't care what it is, let it out. This crisis is meant to change us. If this happens and we miss it, like we miss this opportunity, we just roll back into what we've ever done. I mean, this is what we do a lot of times. If we don't have this process for annual review and annual reflection and strategy, this annual planning process, this methodology, the years just roll on, and we wake up one day and be like, what the frick? Like, what was this? What legacy did I leave? Was it the one I wanted to? How did I show up? How did I have my own back? How did I make sure I was functioning for myself and performing for myself? And in doing so, bringing a better version of myself to the world that so desperately needs it. My family needs a better version of me right now. Not because there was something lacking in that other one, but because I evolve, I step into this responsibility and privilege of evolving and emerging into a higher version of myself every day. So if you haven't had a good old-fashioned cry, let it out. We need to gain closure. We need to let go. We need to say this year is over. I have extracted all the lessons and I'm going to grow. I'm going to leverage them. I'm going to use them. I'm going to use them so that I learn and can see a clear progress. We want to look back and be like, oh, that was the smaller version of me, right? Not some external measurement, our own measurement of what does growth look like? How does that show up? How do I measure growth? So I'm actually going to be providing you a very substantial, for those of you here in attendance, a review, the whole Being Nourished methodology for this annual review. Tons of probing questions that are going to walk you through this process. It could be really daunting. It's almost 30 pages. Or it could be actually you just pick and choose the questions that resonate the most, but we want to be able to have some way of studying ourselves. So this reflection process is going to have lots of questions helping you extract the lessons, okay? And one of them is permission to cry. Let it all out. It will energize you and it will liberate you to turn your attention to 2021. So now that we've left the debris of the past year, we've left it behind. And now we're turning towards the strategy, the year ahead. So what is the context and considerations? Again, we're going to always start with that. What is happening around us? Look at your families. What's going on? We want to pay attention. We want to pay attention. Again, we're not using it as a crutch. We're using it as insight. What's happening? And how can I learn from this? How can I make it so that I can use the current circumstance instead of being dragged down by it, but actually let it elevate me, enable me to level up? This context and considerations is, again, we're still in a pandemic. Okay, we might get a shot. Good to know. What's happening in our companies? Where is the opportunity? If you're working from home, how does that impact you? I want you to, again, look and study and assess, not for looking for the way to wimp out or just permission for, just playing the mediocre game. This is an opportunity for us to get aware, deeply aware of ourselves. Another context might be like, wow, I'm missing my family. I haven't seen my mother. Like that impacts us. And we need to understand that. And then we develop strategies to fortify ourselves. We need strength. So many of us are waiting for a sign. We're waiting for the mood or the motivation. And those things are really compromised right now more than ever. They are compromised. So we can't wait for a mood. We can't wait for the motivation. That is a fickle, unreliable source, unstable source of energy, right? It's like we got to turn towards the sun, which is a very stable source of energy. I know I'm being very nerdy here and throwing in all these energy terms, but it's really fun, actually, by the way, to electrify the plan for 2021. So we have a strategy because we're saying, I'm not going to turn my life over to everybody else or to anything else. I'm actually going to step into that agency. I'm the author of my life here, and I'm going to make sure it's a life I like. I'm going to write a story that I want to read, right? So that strategy is we've covered the context and considerations. It's important for us to know. It's the compost for the life that we're building here. And then we identify 3 projects and priorities. 3. It's tough to contain ourselves. We're doers. I know you. You are my tribe of doers. And what we're saying is we're going to contain you so that you can have a bigger impact. We're going to say you get 3 projects and priorities for the year. Okay? We're going to break that down to a quarterly level, then a monthly level, and then we're going to do the weekly level, which is the really important piece, and then we're going to do the daily. But we're not talking, when we have a strategy, we're not talking about a resolution. Those are flimsy. Those are lame. I mean, haven't most of you forgotten what those were? Like I have. I don't even do resolutions anymore. I resolve to what? To forget what I set out to do. We have amnesia. A strategy is a way for us to override the inherent human state of amnesia, forgetting what we set out to do and responding, reacting to what's in front of us. We have this fight or flight tendency. It's how we're built. It's what happens. It's how we function. So here's the thing. We want to actually remedy that. We want to put some structure in place that enables us to say, hey, you know what? This is what I'm going to hold myself accountable to for the year. Just like we would do in business, we'd have these strategies, we'd have these goals, these projects and priorities, and we're going to say, this is what we're doing for our lives. So we're doing this at an annual basis. We're saying at the end of the year, who do I want to be? When COVID started, the first thing that I did is say, who do I want to be on the other side of this? How do I want to reflect back? Because I have this reflection strategy system in place for the work that I do. It's like, okay, that's what I did immediately with COVID. It's like, this is a new year, right? Who do I want to be? What version of me do I want to be on the other side? What will make me feel proud, right? After I had a good cry, a tantrum, whole thing, like, holy, you know what? This is what's happening. Like I had all that. And then I shifted into this process, reflection and strategy. And I crafted a plan. And I don't have it all figured out, by the way. All these systems are because left unexamined, I'm a hot mess. I really am. This is to hold me upright. This is the scaffolding of how I strengthen so that I can leave a legacy of which I'm proud. And this is the process that I share with my clients. The fact is, you got to do you. So pick the pieces, cherry pick the pieces that resonate with you, that feel like they're going to challenge you outside of what you normally do. They're going to hold you accountable. And by all means, pick an accountability partner. That is a really powerful tool when we craft the strategy. You might actually do it with a friend. If there's someone here, like to do it all as a group and women in energy, super fun to be able to say, like, we're going to hold each other accountable. So this projects and priorities, we say, I'm putting a stake in the ground. This is how I'm measuring my success. With COVID, when I said that, I've lost 55 pounds. I launched the Be Nourished Planner, which has been a dream since I was a little girl, brought it to life and have launched it. I've done 50 webinars. I hadn't done any webinars. Every presentation I did was in person, done over 50 at this point. These were my measurements. It's like, how can I grow? Not because I'm perfect. I am so not. I am so aware of, because of the context and considerations. Those considerations includes, what are my defaults? Where are the ways in which I fall down over and over again every year when I do this? It's like, oh, this is the same pit I fall into. these are our defaults and we need to know who we are. So when we're crafting the strategy, we're saying, these are the 3 priorities and I am going to do everything in my power to stay connected to those. We need to have this power of accountability to ourselves. And we'll talk about ways to do that. And oh, by the way, when I'm developing that strategy, what is my commitment to personal growth? By personal growth, I also mean professional growth. So Women in Energy is a source of growth for you. That is one of the cornerstones of your commitments to your own growth. So it's really important to, part of the strategy, when we did the review, we looked at the organizations that we're in. We looked at Women in Energy. We looked at maybe the chambers of commerce or the country clubs or the, or the networking groups or whatever groups and associations, the people in our lives. We looked at all those things and said, hey, are they elevating me? Right? Are they taking me down or are they elevating me? So we want to look at that and say, well, this is the version of me that I want to be. Who do I want to be December 31st, 2021? And what skills do I need to develop? What habits do I need? What self-care is essential? Typically what we do is we invert the model of, this is all the stuff I've got to get done. And then whatever's left, whatever minutes I have left, I'm going to cram in that self-care. Well, if you're anything like me and my other high achievers, there's nothing left. Our head hits the pillow and it's like, oh my God, I didn't exercise. I didn't get the sleep. It's 11 o'clock. And I was like, after that second glass of wine, trying to shut it all down and numb it all out and quiet our head. Like here we were, never getting the exercise done, even the stretch, the walk, we dismiss it because if I can't work out for an hour, forget it. It's like, hey, we need to flip it. The story we need to say is, given the badass version of me I want on the other side of this, I'm going to actually make sure I take care of myself because that is a source of energy. It really is. I know I'm still using this pun, but like, if we are not leaning into self-care habits, we are dismissing the primary source of energy. We are cutting off this source of vitality and vigor. When we're cutting off this, we are cutting off a resource that could actually sustain us for the entire year. It is renewable, it is always there, and it gives us a competitive edge because the fact is, this entire process of reflection and strategy, the Be Nourished methodology for annual planning, the majority of people that you encounter will not do this. They won't. They won't take the time. They won't leverage the power of the pause. And if you do this, just doing this now is changing you, right? It's giving you that competitive edge. It's making you somebody who's willing to do what so few people are willing to do. The biggest competitor that you have is the version of you from 2020. I want you to refer back to that competition and say, I am going to excel and propel beyond that version. Not because there's anything wrong with it, but because I am a person committed to Kaizen, to continuous growth, that 1% growth over yesterday. That is the competitive edge. The other competitor we have is the one that we're competing, the higher, more evolved version of ourselves, our future self, the one on December 31st, 2021. We want to compete against that. We want to reach that and say, I have arrived at a higher state of myself because I'm curious about what my potential is. So personal growth and self-care, they are the non-negotiables. The sleep, right? If we're not sleeping, if we're not feeding ourselves, if we're not fueling ourselves intentionally, tons of vegetables as close to nature as possible, then we are missing out on a very, very important primary source of energy. We're missing out on this absolute critical opportunity for us to game up, to leverage up, and to really figure out how can we do this differently? How can we be a more evolved version of ourselves? And as a result, contribute more meaningfully to our families, to our communities. Because if we go down, if we start circling the drain because we didn't structure and strategize and commit to a plan of personal growth and self-care, those non-negotiables, if we're circling the drain, we take everything down with us. Everything that we needed to strengthen, we've just weakened when we don't fortify ourselves. So the question is, what do I need? Okay. I want to just hang out with that piece. What do I need? We don't ask ourselves that. We ask, what do I need to do for everybody else? What do I need to do to be, to deliver on X, Y, and Z, right? I want you to hang out on this first piece. What do I need? If we ask that question every day, we start getting an answer. We've closed off, right? We live neck up. We've closed off this version, this wisdom, this knowledge that's inhabited in our bodies and in our souls. We need to awaken that channel of communication again. And the way we do it is by getting still. The way we do it is by hanging out in the pause, the space between, right? The pause is the two lines, that space between those, the space between reactivity and choice, reactivity and intention. We want to hang out there in a mindful moment. And we need to ask ourselves, what do I need? Sometimes the answer is sleep. Ugh, I hate when that's the answer, but it's often the answer. We want to allow ourselves to ask that question so that we get the answer and then we honor it. The strategy part also asks us to say, what do I need to do to step into that elevated version of myself, right? So if I want to be I want to be more grounded and more intentional on December 31st, 2021. What do I have to do? Well, I'm actually going to need to slow my roll, right? If my speed is like, there's so much more to more levers to pull to get things done than speed. Actually, slowing down is how we get more things done. So what do I need to do? I need to slow my roll in order to do that. What does that look like at a monthly level? It might be reading a book on mindfulness. It might be getting an app. On a weekly level, it might be going to a meditation class. At a daily level, it might be sitting with a cup of tea for 5 minutes every day, which will feel huge, right? So this is part of the strategy piece, slowing the roll and saying, what is it going to take? What do I have to give up? And what do I have to embrace? And all of these questions I provide in this methodology guide that you'll be getting at the end, that will be sent to you within the day. Just because you can does not mean you should or must. Just because you can does not mean you should or must. So many of us, the only criteria we use for what we do is our ability, our capacity, or obligation. You're screwed. If this is your criteria, you're screwed. We need a different filter. You are highly capable. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. You are energized and energetic. You're the one everybody goes to, or you would not be on this call. So I want to ask you to challenge this mindset. Just because you can doesn't mean you should or must. You need your own criteria. The criteria is, what are those 3 projects and priorities that you set? The criteria is, have I taken care of myself? Because that's when you know if you've taken care of yourself and you've taken care of your 3 projects and priorities at the annual level, the quarterly level, the monthly level, the weekly level, the daily level, then you know what you have left. Then you know what's left. And that's how you make your decision about what your capacity is. I would encourage you to say no. Say no now to like everything you can. Say no to the things that aren't working. We did that in the reflection piece, right? And then say no to anything that is distracting you from the most important pieces of your life. Those projects and priorities, which you identified, which will have a professional component and a personal component. You want to make sure you get a nice mix. And then you've got your self-care, your non-negotiables that we talked about, the energy, the fresh air, the walking, right? The connection with people that deeply matter to you, the quiet, the sleep, the nutrition, all the stuff that we blow off when things get busy. Those are our first priorities. So every yes is a no. So many people sheepishly admit, oh, I'm not good at saying no. It's like, oh, honey, you are. It's just you're saying no to yourself. So we want to be really discerning about what we say yes to and what we say no to. When you're crafting your strategy for 2021, I want you to project yourself out to December 31st, 2021, and say, what did I say yes to? And what did I say no to? That's what we're looking at. What did I say yes to? And who we are is what we said yes to. What did I deem important enough for my attention and intention? That's what we want to make sure we're really clear about. So consult your future plan, your future self, and the plan you crafted, not your mood. Your mood is a fickle lover. Do you know how often I hear people saying, oh, I'm waiting for, I'm not motivated. Where? I don't care if you're motivated. Like motivation comes and goes. It's unstable and unreliable. I'm not in the mood. Where? Like, right? I'm not saying dismiss your humanity. If we're not feeling well, we got to check in with ourselves. If we ask ourselves every morning, what do I need? We've got to listen to that. That wisdom we need to honor. But we really do need to stay at a daily basis connected to that future self. Every day, check in with her. Hey, how you doing? Right? Am I taking a step towards her or away from her? And we don't need to run towards her. We need to step by step, methodically, boring, monotonous, little baby steps that get us exactly every day. We have 365 days, and any moment, at any time, we can course correct. At any moment, we can reinvent ourselves. Say, oops, I strayed. Here I am, right? So part of this strategy is checking in with ourselves, having accountability systems, accountability partner, checking in with ourselves, working with the planner that says, hey, you said this. Did you do this? Are you keeping your word to yourself? That's how we build confidence, which is sorely missing in women in leadership. Confidence. They look like they've got it, but I look under the hood every day in my concierge coaching. These people that would intimidate the heck out of most of us, be like, oh yeah, they're just like me. They struggle in all these ways too. But now I help them get a plan and a strategy and intentionality that transforms their lives. And now they're leading not on fumes, but they're leading from the source of vitality and flow and energy. They have tapped into it instead of fighting against it. It takes courage to define, defend, and unapologetically live your life. So many of us feel like doormats, just trampled every day with everybody else's preference. See, the person that's loudest is going to get the most attention. And if we're not rooted, deeply grounded in a plan for ourselves, then we are susceptible to everybody else's plan for us. And that sucks. And that's why we feel resentful. Resentment, just so you know, is always underperforming for ourselves. Whenever we feel resentment, try this, it's a little experiment. Whenever we feel resentful, I want you to trust it as a fact that you're not giving enough to yourself, that you have given, outsourced, right? Outsourced your power and not taken enough for you. So it does take courage to define, defend, and unapologetically live your life. But what are we waiting for? A sign? A pandemic? Heck, this is it. If you've fallen asleep in the wheel in this way, open your eyes gently with deep compassion to be curious about your life and actually take some authorship about it so that you leave a legacy of which you're proud, that you can look and say, I created this. I lived a life in authenticity. I spoke my truth. And I was willing to do it because we have to say no to things in order to say yes to ourselves. And frankly, those are the people I admire most, the ones that stand in their truth. They may not be the most popular all the time, but I'd rather give that up. It's like really fitting in is so overrated, but liking ourselves, looking in that mirror and saying, I showed up. I showed up for myself in a way that makes me proud. Well, that's way better than any other social media post that we could get. So this isn't the work for wusses like we talked about. Now we're on the implementation. Make this time count. I want you to, as soon as you get off this call, I know there's going to be lots of pressing things, lots of things that are pulling your attention. Commit to a day, time, place for the annual review and strategy. Schedule it, protect it, unapologetically defend it and say, this is the time. It may be an hour for reflection, an hour for reflection, an hour for strategy. Anything less, you're not gonna really have much impact. So you've really got to carve out this time. Don't wait for the time. Not going to happen. Oh, I'm going to make the time, or I'll wait for. Not going to happen. You got to warrior, you got to protect this stuff. You got to claim it. You got to protect it, defend it. And I don't mean defend by explain. Don't explain. The more you explain, people get in your business. It's not their business. This is a choice. This is a business strategy. It's a personal strategy, and it is worthy of attention and defense. Then we review the past year, month by month, looking for trends, habits, people, organization, growth, right? We got to look at the people in our lives. We got to look at the people inventory. Who are the people that inhabited our lives, and do I choose them again? Be ruthless. I mean this. Be ruthless. I'm not saying be mean. This isn't what we're talking about. We are being intentional. And I want you to think of it, and not just think of it, do this too. Go through your closet. We need to signify to ourselves that there's a new sheriff in town, that things are different. So go through your closet of your life and be like, do these still fit? Does it need to go? Do I need to donate this? Do I need to recycle this? Right? Does it need some tending? Can I sew this up a little bit? Like, what needs to happen? Does it still fit me? Right? We want to look at trends like, oh, I was watching more and more TV, or I've been exercising more. Oh, I like that trend, right? I like how I feel. I like feeling strong. What are those habits? What time am I going to bed? What am I eating? What am I thinking? What am I consuming from a media standpoint? Looking for those opportunities for growth and celebrating those growth. Review it past by past. Now we study what worked and what didn't work. Again, we're letting go of judgment. We're opting for compassion and curiosity. We're looking at this piece. This is the process, right? And you're going to have all these questions to probe that are going to walk you through. If you choose not to do that, that's okay. You can still do it in your own way. Do you, but do it. Celebrate. I mean this, guys. I just don't dismiss this like I have most of my life. This is powerful, powerful stuff. Celebrate. It's going to feel fake. It's going to feel all this stuff. I don't care. Look in the mirror, wink at yourself, have whatever gesture you have. I don't follow sports, but I certainly followed my son's sports, and like, what was that gesture? Like, yeah, like, what is it? What is that gesture? Do that every time you have a win. I promise you, when I get off this call, I'm going to do that. I am going to do that because I showed up. I brought my best. I'm going to look for what I might have done differently. I'm going to look for feedback from Michelle, but I'm going to celebrate because I want to build on growth. I want to set myself up for success. And this is what we need to do. And it is the most ignored piece. Use it, leverage it. The next step is that time traveling to December 31st, 2021. Crafting those 3 goals and no more. Here's what I want you to consider doing. I actually create a video. It sounds very self-absorbed, but it's actually all designed for me to be able to have the impact and the legacy. I'm out to change the world. I'm on a mission, and I need to document that. I need to get my brain past the limitations that I have that tells me I can't, I'm too much, I'm not enough, blah, 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 blah. Whatever those old stories are, I need to get past them. I need to bypass them. And I need to have another story. So I do a little video just with my phone that says, hey, Katie, it's December 31st, 2021. And this is what we're celebrating. So I project right to this process, where I'm going to be, where I'm doing my reflection and my strategy. And I tell the story of what I've accomplished this year. I then do it again on a quarterly basis. So every quarter I do the same thing. I actually do a vision board as well. Super powerful. It's a way to actually anchor it because our brains need to be able to believe it's already happened. And our brain needs help. So we need the visual, we need other senses to get involved. And so that visual of seeing ourselves, the auditory of hearing ourselves, project ourselves out is beautiful. So it's this beautiful combination of staying rooted in the present and actually also rooted, if that's possible, in the future. And then we identify, honor, and invest in our needs. This is also a step that's really easy to bypass, but I think it's really important that what we do is we say, okay, well, if I've identified those needs, what skills do I need? Is there an organization that's going to help me grow? Can I go deeper into women in energy? How can I leverage even more out of that? Are there people I need? Is there a trainer? Do I need a coach? Do I need a planner? What books do I need? What skills do I need? I mean, this is where we actually invest. When I do my retreat, I don't leave my retreat until I have ordered the books from Audible or my local bookstore. I've downloaded the books in Audible. All the books that I have, because I know what my 3 projects and priorities are. So I also know what skills I need to level up. I've enrolled in coaching. Whatever it is I need, I invest in myself immediately because that's my way of saying I'm all in. This isn't like a flimsy little resolution, a wispy little thing. This is a commitment. I have decided. And when we decide, the Latin root is to cut off. I cut off other options. And every week in my weekly planning and my daily planning, I keep going, am I anchored back? I look back to those 3 goals, right? At the annual level, bring it down to the quarterly level, monthly level, they're all speaking to each other. They're all rooted and tied in a thread back to each other. So we identify, honor, and invest in our needs. Immediately invest in our needs. Do you need technology to help you? I'm learning digital organization because my email I'm tracking, it's not a system that's going to work. I want to level up and I need to change my system. So we got to look at systems as well at the personal level and the professional level. And then we take those annual goals and we bring it down to the quarterly. What is a quarter of those goals that I can achieve? And we break it down. So let's say I want to, well, I'm doing that. I want to elevate my speaking game. Okay, well, what does that look like? Well, I enrolled in a graduate program for professional speakers. Okay, well, that's one of my quarterly goals, to extract everything I can out of that. It's ambitious, it's fierce, I'm terrified, but it is exactly the step that I want. I want to master my craft. And I need to keep growing in this way in order for me to serve the purpose that I'm here, right? To change lives, to disrupt our thinking about self-care so that we're leading through nourishment instead of fumes and deprivation. And then we establish monthly, weekly, daily habits of accountability. We break it down level by level by level. So this is how we make it happen. Not just this, this resolution we made on January 1st at 12:01 a.m. When we've had a couple of glasses of champagne, it's like, no, 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 no. How do we make it real? We've got to give it legs. Absolute legs. And this is how we do it so that we can stand tall and stand proud and stand in intention. It requires us looking back, it requires us looking forward, and then it requires this robotic implementation. It's not glamorous, but it's fun because we celebrate the process. We celebrate, we want to be seen, and it starts with us seeing ourselves. How do we see ourselves? This is how we do it. We repair the relationship that we have with ourselves. When we say we're going to do something, we actually do it. We start believing ourselves. Where there was lack of trust, with every time the alarm goes off and we turn it off, we've just broken a contract with ourselves. Now, again, you've got to be present with yourself. If you didn't sleep well, we've got to explore, but you know what, we've got to get off our backs. That's what I see most, but we've also got to get off our asses too. We've got to figure out what that is. How much structure do I need? When do I need to be kinder to myself? And when do I need to look in the mirror and be like, hey, girlfriend, like, really? We got to shut the Netflix off. We got to shut the wine spout off. And we've got to shut the perfectionism off. And like, we're going to go for a walk and we're going to do it for 30 minutes and we're going to be talking to a colleague. We can do that, or we're just going to be in our own presence. So this is the process. This is the implementation piece. And you will get this so that you can see how to actually bring this to life. It's your turn. What are you waiting for? It's your turn to live your life on your terms, your time. This is it. There is never going to be a better time than right now in this moment. And it isn't about perfection. It's about every moment recalibrating, finding that cadence so that we understand we have a privilege and a beautiful responsibility. You have permission to take care of yourselves. You have permission to craft a life of which you're proud. And in fact, frankly, you have an obligation. You are here for a reason. That reason is to study yourself, to know yourself, to bring your unique gifts into a world that so desperately needs you. And now we're going to get the Q&A part. I want you to feel completely safe and free in sharing anything. I guarantee you, transparency and vulnerability, as I've shared with you today, are powerful agents of change. This is how we all level up. We all rise when we allow ourselves to be authentic and vulnerable.